Hey friends, today I'm going to show you a little methodology to help you use suspicion and curiosity so that you can have a breakthrough around any kind of pattern that you're recognizing in your life that is holding you back. So for the most part, what coaching really is it's helping you walk through limiting beliefs. Now, limiting beliefs is something that we actually don't see. We don't see limiting beliefs. What we see is the pattern in our lives based off of those limiting beliefs. So when we take a look at patterns, the patterns that we actually have in our lives are an offset of the splenic center. So it doesn't matter if you have anything defined or not in your design, doesn't matter. I'm just giving you the deep understanding of each aspect. So the spleen is designed to be the pattern recognizer in the human design system. And why the spleen? Well, the spleen has the intuition, it is the immune system, and it also has our instincts. Everything is built into the spleen to keep the physical meat suit, the vessel, alive. So its job, the splenic's job, the spleen's job, is to really recognize a pattern. So there's a pathogen in the body, or a bacteria in the body. The immune system is designed to see that pattern, recognize that pattern, store that pattern, so if it comes up again, it can actually eliminate that pathogen or bacteria out of the physical body. So that's really what the immune system is designed for. So it has to understand patterns, okay? Today, I want to help you see how patterns are actually created through the conditioning field, okay? And they are created through opinions and beliefs. And that's why we talk about, these limiting beliefs in the coaching world. But we don't see those limiting beliefs until we can then connect the limiting belief to a pattern. So maybe the pattern is in your bank account. Maybe you have a beautiful bank account, there's an amount there, and then all of a sudden all these expenses come and bang, you're back down, and then you bust your butt trying to get that bank account back up to the level that you want it to be at. Or maybe health-wise, for myself, I'm just working through this as well, that eating a bag of chips on a regular basis isn't actually serving you to your weight loss goals. So you recognize that, you stop ingesting the chips, and then something happens in your life and bang, you're back into the bag of chips. You know in your mind what needs to happen. You know these things. You know what needs to happen. You're seeing the pattern, but you're unable to move through and actually clear the pattern out of the way. Maybe it's in your relationships. Maybe, the relationships that you have with people, you're recognizing that it's the same kind of relationship. It's just maybe a different person that comes and brings that, but it's always the same pattern. So here's a few things that I want to just share with you today. So there's 3 ways for us to be conditioned. Now, conditioning isn't bad. It's for you to become aware of the conditioning field. That is just one step in now busting out of the limiting beliefs and these patterns that are created from the limiting beliefs and the limiting opinions. Okay, so there's 3 ways. 1, we are directly taught something. So we are directly taught mostly from authority figures in our lives. Again, over here in the spleen. And the 18 and the 50, they are deeply entrenched in the education piece of our lives. And because we are directly taught from the opinions and beliefs of our authority figures, we start to take on those opinions and beliefs. We start to interpret our reality through their lens. This is what worldview is all about. So now all of a sudden, we've taken their beliefs and their opinions, and we start to misinterpret what's going on in the world, which then causes us to have this limiting belief and a limiting opinion. 2, we are indirectly taught. What does this mean? Well, these are the subliminal messages that we get off of TV, off of movies, and out of the advertising realm. These are all things and propaganda that gets put into the mindset of human beings that then creates these beliefs and opinions, again, that are most likely a misinterpretation. And why do I keep saying the word misinterpretation? We are constantly translating the neutrino field all the time through our cognition and sense. We're always translating. But the distortion field happens when the beliefs and opinions and conditioning of other people distort that translation. And then the misinterpretation happens. And when we misinterpret it and create a belief or an opinion about ourselves based off of those outside events, now all of a sudden we are stuck in these limiting beliefs and limiting opinions that hold us back. So what is the third way? And we all know this way: peer pressure. We conform to the beliefs and opinions of the collective and the tribe so that we can fit in. Again, that's what the splenic center wants. The spleen wants to fit in. It wants to feel safe and secure. So we follow the false sense of security from other people's beliefs and opinions. And again, not good and bad, but we have to be aware of how we are interpreting the events in this world so that we can now recognize, is my interpretation correct? Is the translation through my truth, through the truth, or is it just someone else's truth that I am now misinterpreting and holding myself back from then actually living my potential? So beliefs are formed when a behavior happens or an event happens. So let's just walk through an example, okay? Maybe as a child, you felt that you were rejected. When you asked your parents for love or affection or attention, maybe they kind of brushed you off and said, you know, later. I'll be available later. We'll do it later. We'll do it later. And later never comes. So now what happens is that there's this misinterpretation that everyone else is more important than me. A belief is formed. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of attention. And now all of a sudden that belief creates a pattern. What is that pattern? Oh, maybe you don't speak up for yourself. Maybe you sit in the back and you compromise and you're happy to settle for less because you don't think you're worthy. But what if we took a look at this event or these events? Maybe there was more than one that happened as a child. And now you can look at those events through a different lens, okay? Instead of creating a belief system out of any of these conditioned aspects, let's just take a look at it through a different lens. What if it's possible that your parents were never taught to be parents? What if it's possible that your parents were stuck in a loveless marriage and they didn't understand how to give love? Or what if your parents really loved each other? Maybe they were in a 9-0 relationship. They really loved each other, and it was more difficult for the energy field to allow you to be in. You know, what if your parents were not educated themselves? And because of that lack of education, they didn't know how to earn money. And because they didn't know how to earn money, they were in jobs that caused them to work their butts off. And working harder didn't provide them any more money. It actually created more angst. So what if all of that is a possibility? Those are just events, and it's all possible. Because the truth is that the self-worth that is yours has absolutely nothing to do with anybody else's behavior. What it has to do with is your interpretation of the event. So we hear things. There's this indirect teaching. We hear things, and then we interpret them and create a belief system around them. And then in our lives, that pattern starts to operate. So how can you begin to be the observer and participate differently in life? Well, that's where the Ajna Center came into play. And the Ajna Center right now, this is kind of the energy field that we're sitting in. We were splenic, then we moved to the mind, having all the control, and we're leaning into going deeper into the awareness of the solar plexus. But inside the Ajna Center, let's not disregard the magic of the mind. Because the Ajna Center itself, if we can become suspicious of our patterns and start to recognize, oh, when these kind of events happen, I do this. What's the underlying cause of me doing this particular pattern? Get suspicious of the pattern. What is this pattern telling me? And then get really curious. What do I believe when I see or hear these events happen in the world? What do I believe? Because at the core of what individuality is teaching us, individuality runs in the middle of the collective and the tribe. It runs in the middle of it. Okay? And what individuality is actually indicating to us is that there is no right or wrong. It's just an event that happened. So when you hear Ra speak about the itness, that's where we're moving to. We're moving to the solar plexus awareness, this right energy field that can recognize that what is. It is the misinterpretation that happens that creates these patterns. But you can use that same mind, that conditioned mind, that created a belief or a pattern. You can actually use the mind to now question and get suspicious and really dive deep into the belief systems caused by that conditioning. So look at the events in your life. I'm going to provide you with a document. It's going to be in the links below. It's going to be the capacity for you to go and grab this. And this is from a beautiful human being. His name was Morty Lefkoe. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. What he did is he began to use curiosity and suspicion to break through to the itness of an event. And then once you can lean into that, what happens is you can dissolve the meaning of any event. You can recognize what the belief and opinion was that was created from the event. And then you can recreate a different life based off of knowing that there is this possibility for misinterpretation. Okay? So how are we going to do this? First, this is a really simplified way of doing this. Okay? First, what's important is that you need to be able to identify an undesirable pattern in your life. Okay? What is a pattern that you see? Like I said before, it could be money, relationships, or health. Those are usually the three key areas in any human's life. And of course, from there, you can branch out to millions of different aspects. So name the underlying belief that you're recognizing from this pattern. Like I say, you know, the example that I used here is, I'm not worthy. But the truth is, it had absolutely nothing to do with worthiness. It was just a pattern behavior of the parents. And then the misinterpretation was, I'm not worthy. So when you're not feeling worthy, then you're willing to, the undesirable pattern, you're willing to, you know, compromise. You're willing to settle, I guess is maybe the better word that I want to say. You're willing to just let everybody else take over and you take a back seat. So now you want to identify the source of the belief. Okay. So number one, let's go back here. So identify the pattern. Again, this is number one when we are looking at the spleen up to the throat center. We want to identify a pattern. Two, what is the name that we can give to the belief of this pattern? Name the belief. Okay. So over here in the solar plexus, we want to name the belief. We want to identify the source of the belief. What is the source? So go back in and begin to take a look at what was the source that happened. So for example, if you feel rejected and that rejection then turns into a low self-worth, just start to identify that. Where were you rejected? How do you see that source of that belief? Okay. Number four, you want to describe other possibilities. Meaning, what's actually possible? Okay, maybe your parents weren't educated enough. They didn't understand love themselves. Maybe they were in a 9-0 relationship. And it wasn't that they didn't love you or couldn't give you attention. It's just that that energy field was actually self-absorbed. Number five, can you still see this? Yes. Realize that you didn't see the pattern in the world. You didn't see the belief. You saw the pattern. Okay? This is so important. You saw the pattern. Okay? Why is this important? Is because you want to recognize that you saw the actual pattern. You didn't see the belief. You created the belief. You actually created the belief because of the misinterpretation. Number six, you want to eliminate that old belief. Now, how do you eliminate that old belief? Well, you're going to use support for sure, and from a coach or a mentor. But you're going to, once you see this pattern, you want to you want to reintegrate, re-establish a new neural network so that when you see or experience, when you experience this old belief ever in your life, the nervous system no longer tries to trap it in there, but you let that energy go through and you repattern with a new belief. Because the number one aspect here, okay, the number one aspect is that you, my friend, the 7th step, you are the creator, but you are also the participant in your own reality. Okay? So you get to participate with others in this reality. It is your interpretations of what is going on in that environment that then either creates a belief and an opinion that will support you into a better life, or a belief or an opinion that will suppress and oppress you into a life that you do not desire. So understand this, is that there is more than one thing happening here. We are recognizing how the mind can be conditioned and then how to use the higher faculties of the mind. But we are also taking this into the nervous system of the entire body. Because without understanding the emotion that was caused and what we did with that emotion, we cannot clear off the nervous system and regulate the nervous system if we don't understand what that emotion was. So you want to lean into all aspects of this. You want to use the mind and you want to use the body. Because without having the mind as an ally in all processes in your life, what will end up happening is that the mind will lean more into the conditioning, and it will create a misinterpretation of events that will hold you back. So truly, if you want to have wealth in your life, if you want health in your life, and you want high level, high energetic relationships in your life, you have to be able to use the mind and the body in a coordinated effort. And recognize that events are just events. The interpretation or misinterpretation is most likely happening through a belief system or an opinion system. And you do not need to translate the world like that. You can actually translate the world by leaning into your cognition and into the sense of the personality, the cognition of the design, and then bringing those two together absolutely create an entirely new pattern in your life that actually enhances your world instead of oppresses your world. So there's a whole bunch of writing here. And I just would love for you to add in the comments what you understand from this. Are there some steps that you can take, these 7 steps? Are you willing and able to start to recognize undesirable patterns in your life? And if you want support, go to my website and really feel into, is this the correct connection for you? You want support to lean out of this, okay? Get out of these old undesirable patterns and lean into your potential. Operate a business that is multiple 6 figures, hitting 7 figures through this space of relaxation. That's why I'm here. This is what I get to do every single day. All right, friends, have fun.